Welcome to this week's edition of Walking the London Road. Oxford United yet again at Castad draw 2-2, this time to Leicester City. And, well, I don't know about you, I'm feeling a little bit disappointed maybe with the singular point. Obviously, we'll get into it in a little bit, but definitely off that first half, we would have been very much worth the 3 points.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. It feels more like 2 points lost than a point gained, which is
Mm,
pretty remarkable considering that Leicester, obviously, less than 10 years ago, they were winning the Premier League.
yeah.
It just felt like first half, especially, we were all over them. Second half, we did really well. We had the player advantage. We had some opportunities, we just couldn't quite make them count. So yeah, it feels definitely more like 2 points lost than 1 point gained. But again, it's Leicester City, so it's still a good result for us.
Absolutely, like you say, they're 10 years ago. They were 10 years ago this season. Obviously, it was they were winning the Premier League in that incredible miracle. Finished fifth in back-to-back seasons, and was it 5 years ago won the FA Cup at Wembley. So a hell of a journey for Leicester City fans. Before we get too far into it, folks, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. All of those are massive, massive helps with the algorithm. And of course, you can check us out on YouTube or on Spotify. So let's get into things. Let's bring up, as we always do, the lineup. The first game for Cameron Brannigan as Oxford United's official club captain. Jamie Cumming obviously starting in goal. The back four made up of Sam Long, Mikhail Helik, Ben Davis making his Oxford United bow, and Jack Curry. As per usual, as we expect now, Cameron Brannigan and Brian de Kersmacher as the holding midfielders, with ahead of them we had Filip Krastev making his Oxford United bow, Shemi Borheta, Matt Phillips, and Will Lancashire. Obviously, we'll come to talk about kind of the some of the individuals in this team. But what were your thoughts when the team news first came out and that was the lineup, Will?
I didn't quite know what to make of it. I mean, it was a strong lineup, no doubt about it. I think last week we talked about we'd like to see Krastev, Lancashire, and Mills. So I was happy that Krastev was getting his debut. I was also quite eager to see how Davies was going to play. I was a bit surprised by Heta. I thought, I didn't know if he'd done enough to sort of earn himself a place in the starting 11 over Stan Mills. I think also another thing that was really jumping out to me about this squad is that if you look at the bench, it's very clear that it was sort of intended that we were going to go attack the game sort of later on. Very
Yeah.
like a lot of attacking options to come off the bench, not many sort of defensive options. So yeah, I wasn't. I mean, I was sort of like cautiously optimistic. I was excited to see Krastev get run out, and I was pretty disappointed to not see Mills in the starting 11, pretty much.
Definitely. My kind of biggest concern was the usual one we have, which is what has Matt Phillips got on Gary Rowett. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I will say, fair play to Matt Phillips. I did have to eat my words because he actually put in a pretty decent
yeah,
performance.
he was
Um,
really good.
he was obviously lacking the pace, and he was a little bit lacking in his defensive duties, but he was industrious in the attacking third. He beat his man a couple of times, played really good 1-2s with Sam Long, who was getting a lot of luck down the right hand side. Obviously, most of that came after a Leicester sending off, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, fair play, Matt Phillips. He, at
Yeah,
least in the game yesterday, proved me wrong. Obviously,
I mean, I
gone.
wait, sorry, I'll just say one more thing about Matt Phillips. So they said this on the commentaries that he looked more confident yesterday in an Oxford shirt than he's looked in his entire time here. I could
Yeah.
definitely see that. Like he was really sort of good in that sort of like number 10 role. He did get back a couple of times, obviously not as much as maybe he should have done, but he was really good at sort of driving the play forward.
Definitely. I do wonder if kind of Rowett's thinking was he's an experienced head. He's got Premier League minutes under his belt. So he knew how to approach a game against a side that, are itching to get back up to English football's top table. So like you mentioned about the bench, it's very attacking. The two Harrises, Nick Prellick, Stan Mills, Tyler Goodrum, Sariki Dembele. And from those, I thought, Nick Prellick came on and looked pretty good. Dembele, same thing, where he's just trying to do too much with the ball. I appreciate in the latter half of the second period that he was getting in the right areas, but again he's just trying to do too much. Luke Harris looked okay. Mills obviously again comes on and looks dynamite. I wonder if this is going to be a common theme we see through the rest of the home fixtures, especially against the bigger sides. We'll see with Sheffield United coming up in a couple of weeks. If route goes, I'm going to pack the bench with attacking options because this is where we're strongest and we can look to, really put the opposition under pressure.
Yeah, it sort of seems like that's Gary Rowett's game plan for most of the games. It's sort of like to contain the game for the first half and for most of the second half, and then sort of when we have that opportunity, is to then really then sort of throw on the attacking players, bring pace into it. I mean, I'm not a manager, but I sort of would prefer us to sort of just go for it from minute one, if I'm being honest,
Yeah.
a bit like we did in this game. Um, but yeah, for Gary Rowett, if it works, it works. Yeah, it definitely seems like that's his game plan. It's good that he's got the options. And he's sort of got like he's got Prellick, he's got Dembele, he's got Mills, sort of all players who can sort of bring some pace into the attack, sort of when other players are starting to lag behind. So yeah, I think that's his game plan. But me personally, I prefer us to just go for it from the off. I'll be honest.
We've talked about before about there are far too many games that Oxford start so slow and have to end up conceding the first goal to actually wake up. But credit to the boys, this game didn't start that way. We started really bright, Lancashire right on top of things, and what we usually do is we usually show the full match stats as we can see here. But I wanted to break it down because, as we mentioned at the very beginning, I thought first half we were absolutely fantastic, and possibly could have got a third goal to really make it even more comfortable. So these are the first half stats, and we're well on top. Obviously, we'll talk about the very low XG chance that leads to Leicester's equaliser, but we're right on top of them, and
Yeah.
it was a really nice thing to be watching because, like you say, there have been far too many games already at the start of this season where we just haven't looked at the races and we've looked to just absorb so much pressure.
Yeah, it was almost like for the first half, it's like the roles were reversed. Like we were completely dominating them. The ball was for most of the game was in for most of the first half, sorry, was in the Leicester half. We were just kept crosses, corners, throw-ins, you name it. Whereas they were only really getting scraps. Now they're a very good team, so they made whatever opportunities they had, they made count. Obviously, they got the goal, and they got the goal in the second half, 4 shots on target. But we just seemed to be, yeah, we just like we completely dominated them. We didn't the one thing I said, like, we had a lot of opportunities. We didn't have any like clear like he must have scored that sort of moments. If you see what I mean, like we had a lot of shots, but we didn't. There weren't really many where I was like, how has he not put that in the back of the net?
Mm.
But the point is that we were constantly going forward. We sort of contained them in their own half. It was a really, yeah, it was a really surprising display. And I think you're right, to be honest. We should have had three, maybe even four, by the time we went in.
And obviously, we break the deadlock inside 10 minutes. Matt Phillips has a strike that is saved well by the Leicester keeper. And then Mikael Helik is there to put it across the face of goal. And tapping it home is Will Lancashire getting his third Oxford United goal. And like you say, from the opening moments, we really deserved it. I'll bring up the momentum graph in a minute just to show you kind of how on top we were in the second period of the first half. But Lancashire, I I'm we made the mistake a lot last season. I fell in love with another lone player. Well, I can't lie,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah, that's what happens. It's just yeah, it's brilliant for him. Like he seems to be on a bit of a run. Like he's not one of those strikers who'll put away everything that you give him, but like he'll put away enough. Like he's getting goals on the board. It's you know doing what Mark Harris hasn't really been able to do for us for quite a while.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was a tap in, but again, it just does bits for his confidence, doesn't it? And it's also confident for the other team members to know that we've got a guy up front. You give it to him, on his day, yeah, he can put it in the back of the net. Also, unselfish from Helik as well, which is quite nice to
Yeah,
see.
absolutely. It's about being in those right areas at the right time, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Something we've love Sparky, but he's not always able to do that. And yeah, Lancashire looking sensational so far, and he looks like he's really enjoying his time in OX4. Just looking at when he's walking off the pitch after getting substituted, or walking around at the end of the game, he seems to really be enjoying so far his time in a yellow shirt. Obviously, we get pegged back.
Yeah.
Third home game
Another back
and
pass.
another back pass by Cameron
Yeah.
Brannigan. And in the opening 20 minutes, I thought Cam's having a good game here. And it's another wayward back pass that sends in Jordan Ayew, who slots past Jamie Cumming. He's a veteran striker. Give him opportunities like this, he will gobble them up every single day of the week. Disappointing, especially given he came only 3 minutes after we'd taken the lead. I can't lie, I did think, oh, here we go again. I was getting like flashbacks to Middlesbrough last season, where we score relatively early, they peg us back, and then it just gets silly.
Yeah, I think when you're playing a team like Leicester, you can't give them those opportunities, especially when they've got a person like Ayew up front. Also, Leicester responded quite well, I thought, because they got the goal 3 minutes after we scored, but like 1 minute after we scored, they had a really good chance. I think Jamie Cumming made a really good save. For a moment, it almost looked like he put it in his own net, but obviously he kept it out. Yeah, another back pass. There was sort of that sense of, oh my gosh, here we go. It's going to be again and again and again, because Leicester, they weren't really coming forward much, because like I said, we did quite well to contain them, but because they got so much quality, whenever they did come forward, like they, it was, yeah, it looked, I can't speak, sorry. Like they really had like some good opportunities. So yeah, it's just good that we were sort of able to. They weren't able to get momentum from that. They weren't able to then run away and get take the lead, build on that lead. But yeah, it wasn't ideal, obviously.
And obviously, the talent that Leicester had on the pitch. Obviously, Fatawu, Ayew, Mavididi, Ramsey. Premier League quality players, and
Yeah,
we talked about. I think in the preview, it's a bit of a joke. But speaking of Jacob Ramsey, of an incredibly needless
yeah,
sending off in terms of. It comes from a Leicester City corner. It's cleared well by, I believe, Sam Long, and Krastev just goes, I'm gonna, see it out, and Jacob Ramsey just comes across him and clears him out
yeah.
after the ball's gone. And on first viewing, I thought that's going to be a yellow card, but it. I'm a bit conflicted on it, because I can see the two arguments of why it should be a red and why it was more likely a yellow. It's difficult on the replays I've watched to see where some people have talked about how high his foot is on Krastev. I'm not sure. What about you, Will?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing: if it's committed against an Oxford player, it's a red. If an Oxford player commits it, I think that's a definite yellow, and it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
very harsh sending off. It was just needless. I mean, middle of the first half, he's on his debut as well. You'd think he'd want to make a good first impression. I mean, Krastov, he did quite well, but I highly doubt he's going to run through the entire Leicester defence and then like score a worldie. So I don't really. It was not like it was a clear goal scoring opportunity. Um, yeah, I get what you mean about being a bit conflicted about whether it's a red card or not. What they were saying on the commentary was that it was the view sorry, it was the view of the assistant who really sort of put the nail in the coffin for Ramsey.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's sort of one of those. It's like if it's against you, you want them to be sent off, but if it's your player, you think that's a harsh red card and you think you should get a yellow for that. But
It is
either
one
way,
of
it
those
was just
things.
completely needless. Yeah,
Yeah, like you say,
yeah,
it's he's going absolutely nowhere as Krastev,
yeah,
and yeah. But a rush above to the head moment for Jacob Ramsey, and the Burnley loanee is forced to take an early bath.
mm,
And from that point, this is where I'm going to bring up the momentum chart.
yeah,
This, you can see we absolutely dominate this first half, um, and we have a fantastic chance on the counter when Shemi Poheta takes possession of the ball,
yeah,
brilliantly takes it forward. I think it's 20 yards out. Spins a Leicester defender and cracks the crossbar. The Leicester goalkeeper was scrambling a little bit, and it's kind of one of those really unfortunate ones where it's just on the wrong bit of the crossbar. If it's the underside, it nestled in the back of the net, but it's
Yeah.
kind of thumped right off the top, and the keeper is able to collect it. A fabulous strike. And from that point, I thought, like you said a bit earlier, we're going to score 2, 3 more goals in this first half because the control of the game we were having was insane.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. With that Blaheta chance, it almost looked like it was going to sort of bounce off the keeper as he was sort of landing on the floor.
Yeah,
So we got really, really unlucky if you think about it. Um, yeah, we were just all over them. We The whole half pretty much was spent near the Leicester box, um, and you could tell how confident we were getting because Sam Long and Curry were also having a big part to play in the attack.
mm,
We had a couple of long shots, we had a lot of corners, we had throw-ins. I think, like I said earlier, that there wasn't like any like really clear sort of he's got the goal in front of him. How has he missed that sort of opportunity? But the point is that we just kept coming, we just kept hammering it home, and then I think we got our reward just before the second half, which is probably the best time to take the lead. It sort of sucks the wind out of pardon me, out of the opposition. Uh, but yeah, like the momentum, as you can see, was definitely with us, and yeah, we could have had a couple more. I'll be honest.
it's like say Curry and Long. The amount of space they were getting on the overlap
Yeah,
was brilliant. Obviously, 1 or 2 times Curry was getting caught out a bit high at the pitch, but it's kind of almost uncharted territory for him. He's the kind of
mm,
left back that you'd expect to be on the halfway line while the rest of the team is in the attacking third. Longy, he makes those attacking runs quite often in his Oxford career, and just missing that killer ball. But like I say,
yeah,
we take the lead just before half time. A really weird one from where I was in the East stand. Um, Corner gets swung in, and Ben Davis, on his Oxford United debut, heads it goalwards. It takes an enormous deflection off Samare and sends the keeper the wrong way, and Oxford United have a 2-1 lead. And I mean, where was your view a bit more conclusive? Because I can we were all kind of stuck on who's headed that in the back of the net.
yeah. I couldn't work it out. Like, I mean, for a moment, like Lancashire, I thought maybe he got a touch onto it, or I couldn't work it out. I think actually Ben Davies, I mean, was he robbed of that? Should that have been counted as his goal? I don't know. I mean, the deflection was massive, so
Yeah,
I could sort of see why they've given it the weight they've given it. Yeah, it's a scrappy goal, but we deserved it. Definitely deserved it. It was good for Ben Davies on his debut as well, because like, I mean, there were no fireworks from him or from Craster really, but they both put in like solid shifts, and I think it's good that
yeah,
he got
yeah.
rewarded with it. Yeah,
We'll talk about them in a little bit. But like I say, um, at least he got to celebrate more,
yeah,
with
yeah,
setbacks. Very few and far between. I mean, poor Ben Nelson had to wait to the final home game of his Oxford United career to get his goal to celebrate. But going into half time, like you say, we're all sat going, "This is blooming brilliant." We're actually might get 3 points. Um, and then second half, and Leicester, they start well in the second half, but I mean it was the hot knife through butter, was their equal their second equaliser. It's such a good goal. Um,
mm,
it's kind of a very stereotypical goal that teams at the top of this division score, and really tidy finish from Pereira.
yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to say it almost came out. It almost came out of nowhere. As in, from that moment on, then it was a lot more equal. It was, yeah, but it was a really, really good move. It sort of showed the quality that they have. You can definitely tell that they are the team that was in the Premier League last season. Definitely not us.
Mm.
If you're a neutral watching it, yeah, like they had that like really ruthless cutting edge that we sort of lacked. That would have done us a lot of favors if we had it in the first half, because then we could have won a couple more goals up. But yeah, it was a really good move. It's just unfortunate. It's the championship. It happens. When the defense goes to sleep, even just for like half a second, they'll punish
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
and that's what happened. I think the good thing is that then we they weren't able to then build momentum from that and then get like a third, a fourth. Um, but yeah, it's just their quality was on display really.
Definitely. I mean, there was a kind of, I think it was a 2 minute period up leading up to that goal where it had all gone a bit flat in the stands, and I think it was smart in terms of Martis Fuentes had got his side to be a bit more aggressive, and they had good period of possession, and that's when they just they've got the quality to just spring that attack.
Yeah,
And like we said, pass their way through Oxford United's defence. Not an awful lot that any of the boys could do. Daniel Pereira was a former Portuguese international, and he's it's one of those that you'll look at the end of the season and go, yeah, fair play. That's not a lot you could do there. But again, after that, we step on to things. We look good. Again, the substitutions of Luke Harris and Stan Mills and Nick Prelic, they all look really, really bright. And there's one or two chances we have to maybe get the winning goal. I don't think I didn't think we were as likely to get it as we would have in the first half. But Brian de Kersmacher has a good chance that just flies over the bar. We It's one of the kind of few times against the top sides that we faced over the past season and a bit in the championship where I didn't think this comes as a punch in the face and the players are looking really down. They're looking motivated. They're trying to pick themselves back up.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like we didn't. Oh, sorry, I need to collect my thoughts. Yeah, like Leicester City, they didn't look like they weren't going forward constantly. It wasn't like we were on the back foot, sort of defending for our lives. But then again, we didn't really have any clear cut chances. The game was very, very much being played in the midfield. We had a few chances, like you said, to Kurzmacher. I think also one of the first things Stan Mills did when he came on was that he did a really good ball into Prelec, who he was either offside or he was blocked, or it might have been both. I can't remember. Um, so yeah, that's yeah. It was a bit of a like a very even, sort of tetchy sort of end to the game. Both teams could have nicked it, but neither really looked like they were sort of like on the front foot. If you sort of like look at it from the outside and think like we're Oxford, we're drawing at Leicester City, and we're just as much in it as what they are. I think you could
Mm.
say that we could be very, very proud of that sort of, because it could have been a heck of a lot worse.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
are Premier League after all.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, just um, more proof that Samuel should be starting more games of football than he is at the
Yeah,
minute. Because
yeah,
that lad has just got an ability to change games at the minute. The way he's grown into the Championship, he looks more comfortable in the Championship than he did in League One, which is really bizarre. Although maybe that's just because we're seeing him in small pockets of 15, 20 minute spells. Let's talk about the two new signings. Obviously, around about deadline day, we signed Philippe Krastev, and Ben Davis was signed just before the Birmingham City game. Um, let's touch on Krastev first. Um, I thought he looked really, really bright. That um, aggressive running. He was always looking like he was trying to create something to cause issues. Um, and he's got that trait that, you've seen players like Jack Grealish have in the Premier League, in that his direct running, he's always going to draw fouls from opposition defenders because the threat that he poses. They're so concerned about. Obviously, we've only seen him for just about an hour's worth of football. But I really like the look of Philip Krastev.
yeah. I thought it was a really good start for him. There were no fireworks. He didn't score a bicycle kick, anything like that. But it was a really solid start for him. Like you said, his sort of direct runs forward. I know. I think also we talked last week. There were a few concerns that because of his height, he would sort of get bullied against a really physical. Well, I mean, the championship is physical, but especially Leicester City. That
Yeah,
didn't really come to fruition. He was able to win us a couple of free kicks. Um, yeah, I think he did. I think he did a pretty good job. I think it was it's like in the first 2 minutes, he got the ball and he just like made a beeline for the goal. Maybe I might have played in Flechetta, or I might just be thinking wrong. Yeah, I think it was a really solid start for him. He did what he needed to do, and I think he showed that he's got a lot of promise to what he could bring us this season.
definitely. Hopefully more to come. And then obviously
Yeah,
Ben Davis, a very experienced centre half in the EFL, and I thought he looked really, really good. the composed ball playing centre half that Rout wants on the left hand side with the absence of Kieran Brown. Is he's got a bit more pace than I thought he did. In a couple of defensive recoveries where he turned on the afterburners and got back and made a block or made an interception. Really like the look of him, and hopefully more to come, and maybe even if we can be front of the line when his contract with Rangers comes up at the end of the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, again, similar to sort of Krastev, no fireworks. Like it was just a really solid performance from him, and it's good that he got rewarded with his sort of goal. With his it was his goal, but obviously it weren't given to him. Yeah, he did what he needs to do. He was solid in defence, like you said. He had a decent bit of pace on him. Yeah, he showed that he can also be an attacking asset, especially for corners with his headers. Yeah, again, it was just a really solid start for him, like Krastev. So I think good news all round when it comes to the players who are making their debut yesterday.
Obviously. We're going to need to. It's going to be an interesting prospect to see how Rout sets up on this time next week, because of course Oxford United will play at 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon at Ashton Gate. Thanks to some Handex Sport, we've got another 3 p.m. kickoff away from home. Obviously, this was a very fiery game last campaign due to a certain somebody, and obviously it was also in the rain, which Saturday's game was. Bristol City have started fantastic this campaign, no doubt about it. And obviously beat, I think it was 3-0 they beat Sheffield Wednesday by this past match day. How are you feeling going into this game, Will?
I mean, I'm feeling hopeful. I think, like, I always feel hopeful for a game. I always feel like, oh, we might be able to nick something here. We might be able to get a draw. We might be able to get a victory. Like, I think I said this last week in relation to Leicester, is that I feared Coventry way more than I feared Leicester. And we were able to get a point against Coventry, and we've been able to get a point against Leicester. And I fear Bristol City. They've had a really good start, and they've done really well this campaign so far. But again, I'm more worried about Coventry and about Leicester than I am about Bristol. And we've sort of shown that we can sort of stand up to sort of like the bigger teams, and we can get something out of games. And we're getting closer and closer. So I feel like maybe we might just be able to nick something at Bristol. Um, I mean, yeah, like last season, obviously it was a very fiery. That's sort of gone. It's a shame. I was sort of disappointed by ticket sales because obviously last season we sold out the away end, and this season it hasn't really seemed that way. Although hopefully we're going to bring a fair few thousand there. So yeah, I'm feeling hopeful but now that I say that, now I'm getting all the doubt and the logic in my mind. Thinking, oh, hang on a minute, they've had a really good start, and maybe they'll do this, maybe they'll do that. Yeah, like we've proved ourselves against Coventry, we've proved ourselves against Leicester. I think like the next logical step is to now go over the line and get the 3 points. I think the players will be itching for that because they feel like they're sort of owed those 3 points because of the performances they've been putting in. So maybe that will sort of work in our favour, and hopefully with a bigger way end. If ticket sales sort of increase, then we'll be able to sort of have the momentum of the fans behind us. We'll have to see.
Obviously, there are a couple of players that will want to do well in this game on a Bristol side of things. Mark Sykes, Atkinson, McNally, Dickey, and a certain son of the up the A420. Like you say, it's lost that fire because of the two respective managers that were in the dugout. It was my favourite away day of the of the season for the first 45 minutes from last year. But it's going to be interesting because, like we say, a Sunday game. We're not used to Sunday fixtures as Oxford fans, so making that journey is going to be. It's going to be a bit of a novelty. We've had two already, so maybe let's not have too many more.
No.
Obviously, after that, we've got Sheffield United. They have obviously this afternoon, I think it was, sacked Ruben Sayers. Another former Ding manager goes up in smoke. It's just our luck in it that they're going to let the new manager bounce when they come to the Castad. We'll talk about who the man is likely, who's linked with going back in. But from what you've seen from Sheffield United, obviously they're the only side that sit below us in the division. Were you, before Sayers was sacked, were you thinking we might be able to score a couple of goals here.
Yes, but I was also thinking that they're going to look at us. They were going to look at us and think Oxford currently only on 2 points. This is the team who we need to beat to get our season going. So they were going to go into it with a lot of sort of like that, a lot of drive behind them. Like it would almost be for the first time this season. It'd be like the pressure's going to be on us. So you don't really know how we would have responded to that. But I think that whole dynamic has sort of gone out the window because just as our luck has it, they had a terrible manager. Now he's gone just before that, not just before, but pretty close before playing us. Yes, you got to sort of consider that as well. They want to sort of, yeah, yeah, just that luck, really, isn't it? I mean, I was really hoping they would keep him on just for a little bit longer.
Never quite
Yeah,
goes our way, does it?
no, no.
And speaking of managers with connection to the Thames Valley, it appears they're going to be bringing the return of their prodigal son and a man, of course, we love very dearly in OX4, Chrissy Wilder. He had a mixed record against us last season. Obviously, beat his student Des Buckingham 3-0 at Bramall Lane, but then Gary Rowett did the number over him with a Sariki Dembele goal from a Will Vaulks long throw. Obviously, I always go into games against the Chris Wilder side thinking he knows, all the aspects, all the factors at the Castad, the what the atmosphere can be like, the fact that if it's a windy day, the ball can get whipped around worse than any other stadium in the world. But I also know that while those work as a positive for Wilder, they also, he can tell his players that, but he knows that sometimes those you can't control. Sometimes things just go our way. I've said on many occasions that, if it were up to me, if Gary Rowett was to leave down the line, that I'd love to bring Chrissy Wilder back in just for, because that 2010 playoff final, just seeing Chrissy Wilder as an Oxford manager in the Championship would be just pure gold for me. What's your kind of feelings towards Chris Wilder and the impact it might have on Sheffield United, not just if he goes back in, but with his second game back in OX4?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. It's annoying because it's going to really, really help them. You get the new manager bounce anyway, and then you sort of bring in a guy who's already well established with the fan base. I mean, regardless of I mean, he brought them up to the Premier League. I mean, he had his problems at his last stint there. He nearly brought them up again. Um, he knows the Kassam. He knows how the Kassam can get properly rocking, and that can sort of help Oxford, obviously. Um, yeah, I sort of think like for Chris Wilder, it's sort of like you get that new manager bounce, but with Chris Wilder coming in, maybe it's sort of like it multiplies it by about 10 because
Mm.
like he doesn't need to win over the fans. They already know he can deliver results. Um, where was I going with my point? So I cut. I've
Majority of the
started
players are still his as well, aren't they? So it's like,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He like that. Like there. Yeah, a lot of the players are already well accustomed to his way of playing. Uh, yeah. Uh, yeah. Sorry, my point's just gone nowhere. Sorry.
just all I ask is that, don't do us over too badly, Chris, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
I love you too much for that, mate.
Do us a
Yes,
favour.
so obviously we've got, like I said, Bristol City next week. That show will come to you on Tuesday. And then the week after will be our normal Monday slot. Any other final thoughts on the week that has just been for Oxford United? Will, obviously, we had the confirmation of Karen Brannigan as captain, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, Mikhail Helik as vice captain, which I thought was quite interesting. There were a lot of rumours it might be Sam Long, but leaning more towards a player who's, if he's available, he's going to be starting every game.
Yeah, I think it's been a positive week for Oxford. I mean, Cam Brannigan, we already know he's been established as sort of like a captain over the last few seasons, so I think he'll do a good job in that role. Sort of one of those players, like we said last week, sort of wears his heart on his sleeve. Um, I think it's been a good week because the two players we brought in have had really good, solid starts for us. Elliot Moore's left, but Ben Davies looked like he's going to do a good job. Krastev has got a lot of pace, really direct runner. Sort of held our own against a really good opposition, and I think it puts us in a really good position to face Bristol City next week.
Yeah, good way to come back off the international break, get another point on the board as we go into another two really tricky games. Thank you so much, Will, for joining us, and thank you, viewer, for watching and or listening wherever you're doing it, whether it be on YouTube or Spotify. Like I mentioned, please do like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, rate us 5 stars. That always helps in the algorithm. And like I said, we'll see you next week for the review of the Bristol City game. Bye-bye.